Hey all, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Julie and I mostly make videos surrounding topics such as music, makeup, as well as mental health. Today's video is mental health related and it's a little bit of a ramble. I notice my rambling videos don't do all that well, but I just cannot bring myself to make content solely because it does well. I like making reaction videos, but my favorite thing to do is sometimes get ready with me and other times just sitting down talking. Recently, I've been discussing that I've been having a hard time filming and I've been having a lot of social anxiety talking to my camera. And I feel like I recently have made a breakthrough with that. I still have significant social anxiety. It is not gone, but this morning I just felt compelled and ready to sit down and talk and film something. So let me explain why. Today's video is going to focus on identity. I don't have a script. I don't have a ton of research. Eventually I should do a video like that. It's okay that I'm not doing that right now. For the longest time, I could not figure out what I needed for mental health treatment because I have so many co-occurring conditions and I just had no idea as a clinician myself of, well, what's the presenting issue? Like, what do you treat? And one of my friends who's a trauma specialist said that I need trauma treatment. Now, in past years, I have tried some trauma treatments. I did EMDR and I got really re-traumatized and realized I had a lot more trauma than I realized. And people say, oh, you just need the right provider and whatnot. No, I don't really think so. I do think, yeah, I probably need trauma treatment eventually, and so don't a lot of people. But a lot of people end up getting re-traumatized from regular talk therapy, let alone actual trauma treatment, which has the potential to be much more re-traumatizing. So this is the missing piece. It's identity. And let me explain this further. So I have BPD. My understanding of BPD is that you have a significant identity disturbance. You have trouble not only with your self-esteem, but your self-concept, which is a term that describes who you are as a person, your beliefs, your values, everything like that. And it can be really confusing. You can feel pressure to take on other people's beliefs and values to feel safe, or you might want to conform to certain things to feel safe and not get criticized. That can be very hurtful to us. And also with complex PTSD, that's a similar thing. Now, I admit, I have struggled not to pathologize myself all my life because I've been in and out of therapy since I was 9 and I've had tons of diagnoses thrown at me and I do my Let's Get Clinical series and speak very clinically. And I'm trying to work my way around that because I think some of these terms are validating and I do believe the diagnosis is very important. And I also recognize that diagnosis isn't exactly who I am, to an extent. So one of my recent discoveries is I think that I might be autistic. Now, autism, I'm not gonna do a video for Let's Get Clinical. What is autism spectrum disorder? Because that is wrong. That is incorrect. I don't believe that it is a disorder. I don't believe in ABA. I've been listening to the actually autistic community and neurodivergent people in general and understanding that ABA is abuse. And it's really sickening to even think about how many people think they're doing the right thing putting their kids in ABA. So ABA is a behavioral treatment. They strip the identity from these children of why they're doing certain behaviors. Maybe the environment needs to change. Maybe the parents need to change. Maybe neurotypical people and adults, in general, really need to accommodate neurodivergent people more. And it has to do with our world being ableist in general of why there's so much emotional distress for autistic people. And I think that people really like to pathologize those who are different and really pick them apart and look at every single thing as disordered and problematic and think it's this big deal that needs to be changed. Understand when you do that, you cause trauma to a person. And a lot of people and kiddos who have trauma end up with identity disturbances and have no idea who they are because as they were trying to figure it out in their development, it was taken away from them. It was stripped away from them. And I have realized that's what happened to me. I've recently been talking to some people that believe that BPD comes from relational and attachment trauma and from growing up in non-affirming environments. My home is the most affirming environment. My parents can listen to me all day. They just honor who I am as a person. They are open to listening and learning and, we're not perfect. But I think that's part of my agoraphobia of like, wow, my home is so affirming, my home is so safe, and there's nowhere else for me that feels safe. Growing up as a kid in school never felt safe. Not by teachers, not by my peers, Nothing. When I go back and think about my friendships and my past relationships, I thought people liked me for me, but then as they got to know me more, they didn't. And there were things about me that they thought were wrong and they wanted to change. Now, there's a difference between your friends doing something that's upsetting you and you need to talk to them about it and stripping someone of their identity, right? So one big example is introversion versus extroversion. Extroverted people get their energy from socializing. Introverted people may like socializing to an extent, but they need more breaks. They need more time to themselves. And so it's really hard when you have extroverted friends or loved ones and they really want you to go out all the time and be around people and be talkative when you're really drained. That's not something that exposure therapy is going to fix. It is not fair to say, okay, so part of your identity is that this individual is introverted and likes to spend time by themselves. How about we celebrate and affirm that? What a friggin' strength it is to be able to enjoy solitude and find fulfillment and inner peace from that and be able to spend time alone as an introvert. And it's not fair to have this neurotypical standard of how someone should socialize, how often they should socialize, how often they should go out. Because as a clinician, I can have two clients the same age with anxiety and I'm going to treat them differently. I'm going to have an individualized treatment plan and I'm going to learn who they are as a person and build that therapeutic relationship with them. And my treatments for two people with the same diagnosis could look entirely different because they are so individual. And I've spoken before on my channel about how I have a deep respect for individuality, and I still do, even more so now that I'm a clinician. I am blown away by my clients. I learn so much from them every day, and I feel like I grow as a person and I grow in my identity from getting to know other people on such an intimate level. And that's the gift of being a clinician, that people feel safe opening up to you and sharing so much, and they educate you on things. And it's really affirming when you thank them for that, because I think some people expect that therapists know best and therapists know everything. And no, our field's way too massive. None of us know everything, and there's always room for us to learn and grow no matter who we are. And I really appreciate my clients for educating me on things. But anyway, back to being neurodivergent, right? So there's a lot of standards of social skills groups and how to behave and how to be appropriate, right? And there's a difference between being a bully and intentionally hurting someone's feelings and just being who you are. There are people who are just very blunt and honest, and a lot of people can't handle that. And maybe in certain environments for that individual to feel safe, they do kind of have to mask, right? They have to change their personality to an extent to feel safe. And I don't really agree with that or like that, but maybe in some cases it's possible. But as a provider, I would seek for them to find situations where they can be themselves, and individuals that understand that's who they are and respond positively to it and appreciate and affirm their honesty. Because some people dance around the truth and they lie and they want you to read between the lines and they don't outwardly express their thoughts and feelings. So people who do that, it's a huge strength. And then also in the autistic community, there is the double empathy problem, which I've been reading about, where there's a stereotype that autistic people are not empathic, which is not always the case whatsoever. And it's more so when someone else's perspective or views don't align with theirs. And this is not a generalization because it's going to shift. But sometimes when that happens, they do not agree. So the empathy is not there. And that is something that I identify with a lot. I am a very empathic person, and if you disagree with me on something that I've worked so hard to find a value in and a perspective on, as someone who struggled with identity and had it stripped from me my whole life, that is so important to me. And so I logically can understand a perspective, sure, but emotionally, I'm probably not going to care, with the exception of maybe I need to learn and grow. Maybe my perspective is not the correct one. Maybe I'm misinformed, and I'm open to that, and I'm open to learning and growing. But there's a difference between that and a perspective that just really hurts my feelings. And I just relate to that a lot. So one piece of identity for me is that I do think I'm autistic. I've talked to my family about it, and they're like, yeah, and it runs in my family really intensely too. And I found out when I was a teenager, one of my clinicians gave my dad a pamphlet on Asperger's. Now there's a lot of issues with that label. We don't use it nowadays, and I do not want to utilize it. But my dad read it and was like, this isn't my kid, you know? And that's because the DSM, which I do all those Let's Get Clinical videos on, was written by neurotypical people. It was not written by actually autistic people that value autism, that celebrate being autistic. It was written by people who said, oh, let's look at all the problem behaviors in being autistic. And it's really about shifting to being strengths-based. And so I consider myself a strengths-based counselor, and I've talked about this before because I think that's how you have to be trauma-informed and affirming. You have to focus on the client's strengths and point them out and have the client notice what they are so they can utilize those to continue to grow in their lives. And I notice this a lot too about working with kids, that parents set goals. I want the kid to listen to me. I want the kid to talk to me. That's wonderful, but you're not the client. So the kid's the client, and if the kid's goal is, I want to make more friends at school, or the kid's goal is, I want to get coping skills for my anxiety, great. Then that's the goal that I am going to honor, because I am not ageist, and I'm not, you're a kid, I know better. Absolutely not, because that can strip someone of their identity too. And doing that to children from a young age causes a lot of problems, I'm starting to notice, and I'm recognizing my own patterns, that it's caused problems for me. And I've been so confused about so many aspects of myself, and have just sat around pathologizing myself so much of every single thing about me is disordered and wrong and needs to be changed and needs to be fixed. You know, when it comes to eating disorders, they are not part of identity, okay? That is the only one I will pathologize and say that is not a mental health condition, that is a mental illness. It is a disease and it is a sickness, and it's gotta go, because that destroys someone's life, and there's too much romanticization of eating disorders. And I think that, you know, a lot of people identify with their eating disorders and then they're stripped of their identity. And I've been thinking about that too. My former therapist who caused me trauma, I was trying to recover from my eating disorder. I was so lost. Not only that, I newly came out with my gender identity last year and was trying to figure that out. And I feel like she pulled the rug out from under me and stripped away so much. We spent so much time on me like working harder toward communicating with people. But a lot of my friends in my life that I value say I'm an effective communicator, as I am, and that I'm very empathic, and she wanted me to make compromises I wasn't comfortable making. So I recently had a conversation with my dietitian, who I love my dietitian so much. I'm so grateful for her. What an amazing affirming provider she is. And she spoke about values, right? And we know a little bit about acceptance and commitment therapy, but we don't have to get clinical here, but it's very values and strengths based. When we're working with clients, we need to figure out what their values are. What do they care about? What are their passions? What matters to them? Because that's going to vary depending on the individual. And so one thing I realized all these years, when it was like, Julie, you need to find friends who meet this gray area for you, and you need to be more flexible in friendships, and you need to get out more and do things that other people want you to do. That's all neurotypical. And that's not correct for me. That's not what I wanted. And when I stepped back and said, what are my values? I value family. I value alone time. I value working on my YouTube channel, my hobbies. This is creative for me. I always downplayed myself and said I'm not a creative person. And here I am with hundreds of like YouTube videos on my channel, talking to a camera and being open after years of being terrified to do this and always wanting this. And this is so important to me, guys. My YouTube channel is more important to me than being a clinician. It means the world to me to be a mental health advocate and to speak openly and to reach people all over and connect. It just makes a huge difference in my life and feels fulfilling. And that's why I'm sitting down doing this, because I value my YouTube channel and I value authenticity. And I am coming to terms with my authentic self. And instead of having shame for who I am and that I'm different, I'm finding ways to radically accept who I am and actively embrace it better. And I'm starting to feel excited. I'm starting to feel proud. And I'm starting to feel a little bit scared, because I know not everyone's going to accept it. But going back to my values, I don't value friendships on all levels. I have a really hard time with that, especially having PTSD. I need to be with people that I feel I'm safe with. And yesterday I realized this a lot more about what friends, what people in my life do I feel safe with and who do I not? And I actually actively reached out to some of my friends I haven't that I do feel safe with, to affirm that with them and let them know how much I value them. And have recognized that I have very realistic boundaries and expectations in those friendships because I feel safe. I feel affirmed. Those friends don't have to talk to me every day. They don't have to send me a long text message back to my text message, because I know they care. I feel secure, and I don't need to change that. I'm also someone that just doesn't like large groups, and I haven't my whole life. They have been so overstimulating and unfulfilling because everyone's talking and I can't keep up with the conversation, which I've read is hard for autistic people sometimes. So maybe that's something, and maybe that feels a little validating for me to understand instead of it being something I have to fix, because I've been doing exposure for years. And mind you, I'm going to keep up with my exposure vlogs. I do want to tackle my agoraphobia a little more, but I think it's always going to be there. And I think that's okay that I get nervous going out, that I'm more comfortable at home. I value being home. I value feeling safe. And I value more so one-on-one interaction, or sitting down talking to my camera, or journaling publicly on my social media, even though people don't like it. You don't have to follow me. I don't exist to make other people happy. And people have been telling me that my whole life, and I logically knew that, but emotionally, it didn't start to set in until I was almost 30 years old. I turned 30 in a couple of months, and I'm making a lot of realizations about myself that I'm excited about. And as I'm learning to embrace myself, I feel it's making me a better provider, because I'm modeling that for my clients and I'm helping them discover who they are, and I'm not pathologizing them. Maybe I have to in my notes for insurance, but when I am talking to them, I am looking at, wow, this person is so amazing and has so much to offer this world. Let's explore that. Let's explore what they want. Let's explore what they value. And I think that's really exciting. I think so many people feel like they have to force themselves to go out and be around people, and that we have to constantly do exposure and avoidance is bad. And that's a judgment. DBT teaches us about non-judgmental stance. What even is good and bad, if we want to get existential and go there, honestly, right? We can't avoid all the time. Yeah, I get how that could be unsettling and unhelpful to us in the end. But we have to be gentle with ourselves. One clinical skill is to meet the client where they're at. So I want to meet myself where I'm at. If I am not feeling well and not up to being around people, and know I will shut down, and know it will make me feel worse, and that I don't really have any good coping skills to work on that, that's okay. Because in those moments, I feel stripped from my identity. And that's what seems to cause a lot of my mental health symptoms, as opposed to when I feel safe. An example of this is I went to visit my family this past weekend, and I was goofing around with my little Noah, my cousin's son. He's 8, and I love him so much. We have a very close relationship, and he's different, right? He's got some mental health stuff, and I love him so much. We have so much fun. My grandmother is different. My family is wacky. I have some extended family that I do not talk to because they are not good about mental health and they are not open, but the ones that are, that make me feel affirmed, I'm forming better relationships with nowadays. And I felt so fulfilled by the interaction. And also there was no pressure to stay for hours and hours on end. And my grandmother was cracking up laughing, and she's like, Julie, you are still like a kid. And she didn't mean it in a judgmental way. She saw that I was honoring my inner child, and she loves people who are different. She's different. She's not afraid to speak the truth. And I've talked about her with some of my clients. We talk about grandparents all the time, and not the negative aspects of traditional values, but just the positive qualities of that. They're not afraid to honor their true selves or meet their needs, or that how much some grandparents care about other people. And I know those are generalizations, but I value my family so much, and I felt fulfilled from that time, and I felt safe because I knew when I was over it, I could leave. And when I was a kid, I used to go to a party for an hour and everyone go, oh, Julie's leaving, bye, Julie, because that was it. And that's all I could do. And for years I've tried, and still, like, my friend Amanda comes over. I love her so much. If you're watching this, I love you, Amanda. But after a while, I'm going to be like, oh, I hope Amanda goes home because I want to take my makeup off and get ready for bed. And she gets that. She accepts me as my authentic self. And that's why I feel secure in my friendship with her. So after all these years of sitting around of why don't I get along with people, it's just because I haven't found the right people. I haven't found people that truly accept, embrace, and affirm me. So it's going to take me a little longer because I'm not going to settle for friends. And I don't value having like acquaintances and this and that and, you know, all of that kind of thing. I do have those kind of friends, but it's a little unsettling. And I really value close friendships. I find there is a spiritual component to that. And I am very spiritual too. Not religious, but spiritual. And that's part of my identity as well. I mean, I love water parks. They're my favorite band. And to me, it's because Austin Knight isn't afraid to be who he is and just be expressive and open and different. And there's a lot of criticism on him for that is completely unwarranted in my opinion. And I just look up to him so much for that. And I really love creative people. I really love people who aren't afraid to be different. I mean, heck, I go to work with band merch on and I don't care. I think it makes me more professional because I'm an authentic human being showing up every day to help people, from one person with mental health conditions to another, instead of pretending I'm perfect, because I never want to put on a show. I don't want to wear a mask metaphorically anymore. I just want to be me. Sometimes I'm quiet, sometimes I'm loud. And that's okay. I can be whoever I need to be that day and honor my needs and honor myself. So yeah, I just wanted to sit down and vent about this. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel as well. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Julie_counseling, and my Facebook page will be linked down in the description box as well. And I'll catch you on the flip side. I hope you're able to affirm your true, authentic self today. Bye all.